He is
Hey.
on. Evans, you want to join us? We're getting on one more sponsor. Let's get started here. It's a little after 12. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Peggy West. I'm the organizer of today's webinar. We have such a great turnout today that registered, over 200 registered for today. We're going to find out what really does an adjuster do. I wanted to mention a few things that they help with on your claims. We know about all the moisture and so on in Florida. We surely have a lot of that going on right now, at least in South Florida. We're having a lot of rain. There are damaged claims for ceilings, water heater bursts, broken drain lines, mold damage, broken angle stops, AC units leaking, and so on. And I know the managers and the board members have had to deal with it all over time. So you never know when the residents are looking to the association leaders to help them with these problems and issues, and you as the board members and property managers have to deal with it. So I want to commend you all for being on today, gaining more knowledge and reviewing what adjusters do and how they can help you. And we do have an expert today with a lot of experience. So let's get started. I'm going to start introducing first the sponsors, and I want to thank all the sponsors for your efforts to get so many guests on today. Again, I'm Peggy West. The company is Market Smart, putting on these webinars. The first sponsor I want to introduce is the wind beneath my wings. It's Vinteum software. We've got Layla Scola on today. She is the head of customer success and marketing, IT support. Layla, tell us about yourself and what Vinteum does for associations.
Thank you so much, Peggy. Like Peggy said, my name's Layla. I'm head of marketing customer success. I've been with Vinteum for 5 years now, and Vinteum is a software company. We have two different softwares. The first is called Neighbors by Vinteum, and that creates websites and secure portals for HOAs and condominiums to improve management and communication in their communities. And the other is Inspections by Vinteum, which creates inspection reports to help you inspect your community and keep it safe and secure for everyone.
Awesome.
So much, Peggy.
Okay, honorable mention today is her partner in crime there, Yasmin Johanna. She's the marketing manager for Vinteum and does a lot of work for me, for us to make sure that these are successful. Next, I want to introduce M2E Engineering, which is the host actually for this particular webinar. We have Rudy Martin on today. He's the Director of Strategic Business Development and today's moderator. Rudy, tell us about yourself and M2E Engineering.
Thanks, Peggy. As Peggy said, I'm the Director of Strategic Business Development. We have offices in Miami, West Palm, Orlando, and Tampa. We're a full service engineering firm. Everything from your building's inception, we can help with buildings construction. We can help with the turnover process. We can help with litigation if you get into an argument with the contractor and the association or vice versa. We help with, of course, the milestones and the structural integrity reserves, but we also have a full service of mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers on staff. So any building need, any building envelope need, any mechanical need, we're here to help. So either reach out to me or Autumn. Autumn's on the call. She put this together. She wanted to say hi before she goes and does the 800 things on her action item list that she has, but she wanted to join us. So I'm also moderating the event. There's a Q&A button in the bottom. That's meant for questions. I'm going to politely interrupt Kevin when I see times fit and ask him some of your questions. The chat box is for nice, positive comments about the webinar. So make sure you keep the questions in the Q&A and the positive comments in the chat. And then we'll take it from there. So Peggy, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, great. Autumn, I wanted to have you say a few words about yourself and what you do for the company.
So I'm Autumn and I work in the Orlando branch, and I do a lot of the new business development in this area. And I also set up all the proposal review calls and such. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. Nice to meet y'all.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for all you do. You help quite a bit. Next, I want to introduce an attorney firm, DHN Attorneys. And the principal is not on today, Don Neigbrs. He's the principal attorney, but we do have Mallory Ertel on. Mallory, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you guys do for associations?
Yes, all right. Hi, everyone. My name is Mallory Ertel. I'm the Director of Client Development for DHN Attorneys. We represent roughly 200 community associations throughout Central Florida, from St. John's to Hillsborough and everything in between. DHN covers collections, covenant enforcement, contract review, document review, amendments, basically anything an association may face. We've seen it and can help you out. We have a really positive work environment in the office, and I like to think that extends into our clients. We like to bring the personal touch, remove the traditional boundaries. I think sometimes there's a lot of anxiety working with a law firm, so we like to try to remove all of that. Our attorneys are immediately accessible. If you need anything, you don't have to really schedule an appointment weeks in advance. If you just have like a 5-minute question, they're available and able to help you. I used to work at a management company, and when I just started in April, and I was surprised at like DHN's relationship with our clients. It's just amazing. So if you have any questions, I know Peggy's gonna send out everybody's information, so I'd be more than happy to answer anybody's questions.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here today. Next, I want to introduce Shelby Benson. She's the Vice President, Commercial Relationships and Manager of Association Banking for Valley Bank. They're a very strong bank for association banking. Shelby, tell us about yourself and the company and the bank.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. My name is Shelby Benson, and I'm a Commercial Relationship Manager. I am over association banking, and Valley has been in the association banking space for over 25 years, and we offer a full suite of products and services that associations need. So we have all the treasury services, so lockbox, ACH, remote deposit capture, Pagami. We can fully integrate with your accounting software. So we have expertise in association banking. We have a concierge team that only works with our management companies to provide that stepped up level of service. So we also do association lending. So any large project, any capital project that your associations might have, Valley Bank would love the opportunity to offer you a term sheet and let you know what we can do.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for joining us and for your sponsorship. All right. Next, I want to introduce a gentleman. He's the owner of Dryer Vent Wizard of South Seminole and North Orlando, Evans Reeves. Evans, tell us about yourself and your business.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Evans Reeves, franchise owner of Dryer Vent Wizard of South Seminole, where we're based out of Central Florida, and we service Lake, Seminole, and Orange County. We have been in business for the past 16 months. Some of the benefits of cleaning out your dryer vent line are to reduce the risk of a fire, dry your clothes faster, your dryer will last a lot longer. You'll have less repairs. It preserves your clothing, reduces your utility bill, and it helps eliminate mold and allergies from coming from the dryer. That's a little bit about Dryer Vent Wizard. Thank you for having me.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I need you to come down here to South Florida. I need all that. Okay, next I want to introduce Austin Cotton. He's the Director of Sales for Stevens & Company. Austin, tell us about yourself.
Hey everybody, like she said, my name is Austin. I work for Stevens & Company. We are a painting and roofing multifamily condo HOA and commercial contractor. So whether it's flat roofs, sloped, tile, you name it, we'd love to be able to help you guys out. Yes, hurricane season is coming up. It's like one, you want to make sure everything's shored up before it does happen, but also after the fact, if you need to team up with, usually a roofer and a PA can team up, and I've teamed up with Ask an Adjuster before, and whether you need to get some assessments and be able to check out some damage, we'd love to partner up with Ask an Adjuster on that. We're also painting contractors. I come from the paint manufacturing side, so whether it is a full exterior repaint or whether it's just some kind of stucco replacement, small repairs, we'd love to be able to help. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, great. All right. Last but not least, I want to introduce the gentleman who is the business developer for US Lawns, Michael, is it Plaseniak?
That's correct.
How about that? Yay.
So,
Take it away.
my name is Mike Plosiniak. I know it's a long last name. As long as you remember Mike P's the guy for me, you'll be all right. No, but I'm in business development with US Lawns. Particularly my franchise takes care of the greater Orlando area. However, US Lawns oversees all of Florida and a bunch of locations nationwide. We specialize in commercial landscaping needs and are a large commercial conglomerate, but with the backing also and mom and pop feel of having franchise and mom and pop owners. So anything commercial landscaping, HOAs, multifamily, industrial, anything of that sort, we're here for you. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks for your sponsorship. Okay, well, let's get into the meat and potatoes here today. I want to let you know who is speaking today. We have a native Floridian born and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida. Kevin Downs is the CEO and founder of Ask an Adjuster. He's dedicated his life to helping others and ensuring their well-being. He's armed with a degree in finance from a prestigious University of Florida, the Gators. Go Gators. Kevin possesses the perfect blend of knowledge, expertise, and personality to continue to lead Ask an Adjuster into the future growth and success. After spending the first 5 years of his career selling insurance policies, Kevin transitions into a Florida state licensed public claims adjuster in response to the Hurricane Wilma's devastating impact in 2005. Driven by a passion to help those affected, Kevin co-founded Ask an Adjuster in June 2006. Since then, the company has grown exponentially, assisting over 60,000 claimants and recovering more than $1 billion from property insurance carriers. Today, Ask an Adjuster is the largest public adjusting firm in Florida, thanks to the incredible team of over 90 adjusters and 30+ dedicated office staff. Kevin's caring nature extends to both clients and employees alike, treating everyone like family. His philanthropic spirit, combined with his finance degree and business acumen, makes Kevin Downs an inspiring and dynamic CEO who is committed to helping policyholders across the Sunshine State. Today, he's going to speak about how or what you ask an adjuster. So I'm pleased to turn this over to our speaker today. Kevin, it's all
Wonderful.
yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Just listening to that, I was starting to wonder, when is that guy walking in? You know what I mean? You did such a great job. So thank you so much for that, Peggy and Autumn, M2E. Thank you all for having us, allowing us this opportunity. And so without further ado, we'll go ahead and get kicked off. And I have some teammates here that are going to help run us through the slideshow. So the name of our class is Insurance Claims, Hints, and Tips. My plan is to teach you all some things that maybe the insurance companies wouldn't be super excited about you to perhaps know or learn. But my hope is that I can help you become better equipped and prepared, that if you do in fact need to actually use your insurance policy, give you the best possible chance to get some money out of it, right? I meet tons of people that pay in for years and years and then struggle with getting anything out of it. So thank you again for having us. So head to the next slide. Thanks, Christina. I'll go to the next one. There we go. So who am I, right? So Florida native, born and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida. Went to school at the University of Florida. Go Gators. Thank you again, Peggy. Got a finance degree, moved to South Florida, sold insurance for 5 years. Hurricane Wilma hits. Fast forward 17 years as a public insurance adjuster, largest firm, actually probably in the nation now. IICRC certified, right? So water restoration certification, mold remediation certification. We don't perform any of that work. We just need those certifications so we can speak intelligently with the insurance companies. We've inspected thousands of properties. Me personally, I've climbed on thousands of properties, residential, commercial, testified in numerous trials. I'm up to, I believe, close to double digits now in terms of trial testimony. Founded this company, obviously. One thing I will tell you, though, I'm not an attorney, so I can't give any legal advice. So anything I say You're welcome to check it, with your attorney. And if you get some conflicting opinions, I'd love to speak with them. I'd love to hear, because naturally, having recovered, well in excess of over $1 billion, we work with tons of great law firms. And we always want to arm ourselves and our clients with solid information, good information, good advice. Should go to the next one. Hopefully all of you got some sort of an outline for the class, as well as a feedback form. I think Peggy might have sent those out. Very important about the feedback forms, by the way, we only want those back if they're good. So if you got a bunch of bad stuff to say, just keep that to yourself, okay? Now, seriously, we do appreciate constructive criticism. So here's a little glimpse of our team, right? Our corporate location is actually in Melbourne, Florida. We have 5 offices, 5 brick and mortar throughout the state. We have adjusters that live from Pensacola all the way down into the Florida Keys. And yes, even the Florida Keys adjusters do come to work sometimes. They do work every now and then when it's not calm and they're scuba diving and fishing and all of that. We've recovered well over $1 billion, have over roughly 90 licensed public adjusters, and we love helping people. At the end of the day, that's our #1 focus. If we help people, everything else will work out. Let's go. All right, so insurance, what is it? Who needs it? Basically, we all pay for insurance most of our lives. I have yet to meet anybody that's ever really actually been taught how and when to use it. And that's pretty ironic to me, something that's such a big expense, but nobody's teaching us how to use it, how to get the money out of it. So that's part of what we're going to do today. But basically, it's a promise to pay for a potential future event, right? It's a form of risk management. One thing I would like us all to agree on, in our opinion, insurance only has value if you can actually collect from it. And if you disagree with that, I'd love to introduce you to 65,000 plus people that we've served so far that had difficulty getting anything out of it. And they will tell you, what was I paying for, right? If I can't collect from it. So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, is just how to position you and your communities with the best ability to recover money if you actually have a claim and you need to. And so the first thing we're going to talk about is, why are rates rising? Can we reduce them? And then, do we need insurance for our insurance? So, normally I'm teaching these in the presence of a room of audience. And typically I would ask questions like, has anybody's rates been going up? Right? And naturally you can imagine the response there. I would assume that just about everybody on here would say yes to that. And then I would ask questions like, are any of you, by a show of hands, raise your hand if your rates have gone up and you did not file a claim, right? And then naturally the whole room raises their hands again. And, they have that fear of, hey, if I file a claim, they'll raise my rates. Well, guess what, guys? Rates are going up anyway. So sometimes getting funds out of that policy are actually a good business and can bring your rates down, believe it or not. And we're going to talk about that. But can we reduce them? That's something we're going to speak about as well, not just from the agent side, the people that sell you the insurance, but from the adjusting side, the people that actually help you recover the money from the insurance. And then we're going to touch again, like I said, on, do you need insurance for your insurance? That's really just our advice of how to best prepare you, your communities, your own personal properties. So in the event you do need to file a claim, you have a high likelihood that you'll have success and get the money that you need. And so I want to touch first on the different types of adjusters here in Florida. We have the insurance company adjuster, which is very rare nowadays. Those are captive adjusters. They work specifically for one company. It's going to be rare that you see that. I think maybe State Farm is one of the only companies that still has those. Independent adjuster, that's going to be your most common adjuster. The independent adjuster works for the insurance companies, but they work for multiple insurance companies. I can't tell you how many times I'm at a trade show or I meet a board and they will say to me, yeah, our adjuster is coming out on Thursday. And I'll say, oh, that's great. Okay, you guys had a claim and you hired your own adjuster. And they'll say, well, no, the guy that Lloyd's of London is sending out. And I'll say, well, wait a minute here. Let's make sure we understand who that adjuster works for, right? That adjuster works for the insurance company. They are directed by them, they're trained by them, and they're told what they can and can't do by them, and they're paid by them, right? So let's be crystal clear that an independent adjuster by law is licensed only to represent the insurance companies. Very important to understand that. So in Florida, the only adjuster that's actually legally allowed, other than an attorney, to represent, you know, you, the board, the community, the individual unit owners, that's a public adjuster. A public adjuster represents the public. And we're regulated by the Florida Department of Financial Services. We have a lot of regulation over us because, as you can imagine, as an adjuster on behalf of the people, we engage the public trust. Therefore, there needs to be a lot of rules to keep everybody clean. So how to best prepare before a potential claim. You know, this is something that we've developed over 17 years of experience. And what we have found is the number one cause for somebody getting denied is pre-existing conditions. And so 7 years ago, we had Hurricane Matthew, 2016, came up the coast. Here in Melbourne, we had a townhome community, 100+ units. And so they had known us. They decided, hey, you know what, we're going to try to file this thing on our own. We'll deal with the carrier and hopefully it'll go well, right? And so fast forward about 6 months, they call us up and they say, we'd like to come to your office and we'd like to meet in your conference room. And the 3 board members come walking in and they got their heads hanging kind of low. And I pretty much already knew what they were going to tell us. So we sit down and I said, so how's it going? And they said, well, Kevin, it's not going very good, right? Our community was hit by a hurricane. We filed a claim. The insurance company sent out all kinds of people. We thought they would pay us. We went ahead and took out $1 million loan. We replaced the roofs and we got a denial for pre-existing conditions. And I said, okay. Well, I've seen a lot of denials, right? We've helped, you know, tens of thousands of people. Let's talk through this a little bit. Do you have some pictures, right? Maybe you have photos of the damage of the roofs. They all start kind of looking at each other, scratching their heads. I said, okay. Have you had any engineers out for you? You know, any experts on your side? And they start really just looking at each other and they start looking down. And I said, all right, so basically what I'm hearing is you took $1 million loan, you got brand new roofs, and now you're sending me in with my hands tied behind my back. And they started laughing. And so I'm up for the challenge. You know, we said, all right, well, we're going to do our best to help you. You're our neighbors. We're going to go in and we're going to tackle this thing. Funny enough, just settled the final stage of it actually 2 weeks ago. But about 1.5 years after that, we got them 700,000 or so of the million, just closed it out for another 300,000. So, but what I realized through that, what I learned through that is we at Ask an Adjuster, we do not want to wait until you have a claim to then come out and look at your property. That's a bad plan because we have nothing in our file to combat the pre-existing conditions. So we started a program 7 years ago. It's a free service. We do it as a courtesy. The state doesn't even allow us to charge for it. And basically we come out ahead of time and we inspect the community and we issue something called a baseline certificate, right? A certificate of good condition. So as of today, our licensed adjusters were here. We looked at the roofs, we looked at the windows and doors, we looked at the common areas, and everything's in decent shape. We issue you a certificate. Claim happens, event happens, storm happens, plumbing pipe breaks, whatever. Guess what? We have a date certain where there were no pre-existing conditions. When these last sets of hurricanes hit last year, in case you guys weren't aware, our state was hit by 2 hurricanes, Hurricane Ian, Hurricane Nicole. And when we had these certificates on file, we had almost a dozen communities pop up. We were able to set side by side. What did they look like before the storm? What did they look like after? How fast do you think they got their check? Yes, lightning fast. So we know it works. We know it's a game changer. Baseline inspections, especially ahead of having a claim, we do them for free. They should be done by someone that recovers money from the insurance company for a living. We know what to look for. We know the areas of sensitivity. We know exactly what their engineers are going to say when they try not to pay your claim. The second thing is the policy. How many of you have read your 110-page commercial policy? And I can't see your hands, but I imagine it's not very many, right? And so I read these things for a living, and I can tell you what's interesting is in the front of the policy, it says it's covered. In the back of the policy, it says it's not. And in the middle, it says it might be. and everybody's head is spinning, right? So talk about gray area, you know, the insurance business has a lot of it. So we need to know the rules to the game. We come out as part of the baseline. We also do a free policy review. Again, this should be done by somebody other than the people selling it to you, which don't recover the money from it, right? An agent can sell you anything, but when it's time to use it, now what are you going to do, right? So we need to know what's in there. We need to know several key things in that policy, and I want you to be aware of it in case it's not good for you. I want you to be aware of it before you need to go use it. Everybody good with that? I'm sure. This is difficult, by the way, you know, doing this in a camera and not seeing all of you guys smiling or falling asleep on me, or, you know, maybe even putting up your finger at me. So anyway, just kidding. Pre-existing conditions we talked about. So we go to the next one. Thank you. So here we go. So here's some examples of things that we have found in these policies. About 25% of your communities right now have this in your policy, and my bet is none of you are even aware of it, right? But when it's time to go use the policy and recover the money, that's when you'll find out what's in there. That's not a good game plan. So I'm going to give you a quick example. We had a community in Kissimmee. They were hit by a large hailstorm, wind and hail. They filed a claim. The insurance, they had 40 buildings, 160 units, and they filed a claim, and the insurance company paid them $50,000 for their damages. They found us. I personally got involved on that one several years ago, and got the claim up to $800,000, right? That was fantastic. However, we needed $4.5 million, and Lloyd's of London went to a mediation with us about 1.5 years into the process, and they folded their arms and they said, hey, look, if you don't like it, we can just go to arbitration, right? We're at 800, you're at 4.5 million. We can go to arbitration. I said, well, that doesn't sound too terrible. What are we talking about here? Well, if you read it carefully, arbitration is not really a terrible process unless the seat of it is in New York, governed by New York law, right? So let me ask you a question. Your community is here. You pay your premium here. You bought your insurance here. Do you think it's a good thing for you to now have to travel to New York under New York law just to get a claim paid fairly? The answer is no. That's not an advantage. And unfortunately, as it stands now, it's the law of the land. It's gone all the way up to the US Supreme, and it's been upheld. So we've seen guys challenge it. We've had teams of attorneys trying to challenge it. And unfortunately, if you have this in here, as of today, the courts have upheld it. Now, naturally, we can still assist. We can help navigate this process. For that Kissimmee community, right? They went from 50 grand to 800 grand. We closed it out at the 4.5 we needed, right? So by the grace of God, we got them 4.5 million. The downside, it took 5 years. 5 years to get $4.5 million because this was in their policy. So once again, things that we've learned along the way, when is the best time to inspect the community and issue a baseline and review that policy? And I can tell you, it's before we get blasted with a hurricane, before you have a pipe break on the 9th floor and it floods the building, right? So we won't want to wait until we have a claim to realize that we may want a good adjuster to review our stuff and inspect our community. That's a big part of the messaging today. Thank you, Christina. So what else is in some of these policies? Well, I don't know about you guys, but that guy doesn't look that friendly. And if you're not aware of it, most of you right now have a policy that says the insurance company is not mailing you a check. You're not picking your contractor. They're sending their cousin Dave to come fix your community, right? And Dave doesn't look that friendly. So I don't know about you guys, but I don't really want Dave coming to my condo community to take care of my windows and doors and my roof and my balconies. No, I would rather pick my own contractor, right? So I'll give you another example. We had a community in Central Florida, in the Orlando area, 54 buildings. They had a storm come through, hailstorm. We get a lot of hail in Central Florida for some reason. Had a hailstorm come through. We had a claim with the insurance company, and they agreed to replace all 54 roofs, right? So we're high-fiving the board. Hey, this is exciting. Great job, guys. You got it done so quick. But then there was the caveat. Oh, by the way, we're not sending you a check. We're sending Dave. And the board fell out of their chair. I picked them back up. You know, they were elderly. I had to be very careful with them, pick them back up. And they said, what is this? Right? And they're mad at their agent, you know, and at the end of the day, this was in their policy. This is what they bought. Guess what it saved them? That was the best part. You know, they had like a $60,000 premium. This saved them $300. Right? So I asked them, I said, hey guys, for $300, would you rather have the check? Pick your own people? They were like, Kevin, that's a no-brainer. We pay 60 grand and now we don't even get to pick who's fixing it. This isn't okay. So they were upset, as you can imagine. We had to go round and round. Well, then the insurance company went out of business. So now we're all like, uh-oh, did we just really mess up, right? Now, not only do we not have a check, we don't have 54 roofs that Dave and his buddies might come do. So thankfully, the carrier was an admitted carrier, not a surplus lines. They moved over to FIGA because we've been around 17 years now. We built a lot with FIGA, so we get in touch with FIGA. I speak with the manager over there. We know each other. We've been, you know, in this business a long time, and they try to hold a hard line. Like, no, we're not sending this check. And I'm like, why do you guys care? You're the state. Just send the check. Who cares who you're sending it to? But even FIGA wanted to send this guy out. And the community was like, no, we are not going to let that guy out here. He doesn't look nice. We want our own roofers, right? We want Stevens or that gentleman that was on there. We want that guy to come do our 54 buildings. So long and the short of it is we successfully negotiated it. We got them 2.1 cash. They got the roofs taken care of, but it was a lot of fighting. It was a lot of dog fighting. And had we just had the ability to educate them ahead of time, maybe they would have said to the agent, hey, bud, for $300, I want my check. I don't want them to pick who's coming to fix my property, right? So it's the things that you don't know that we want to share with you, that we want to teach you, right? We want to give you this info ahead of time so that you're not calling us after the fact and then we're all struggling to climb an uphill battle. We like to save you guys from assessments. That's a big part of what we do. All right, I think we can keep rolling. So potential vendors and their respective roles, you know, pretty straightforward, right? If you have any sort of repair issues at your community, you're going to be dealing with contractors. What do contractors do? Well, contractors tear stuff up and they put it back together, right? That's typically what they do. So you'll have a contractor involved. You may have an attorney. Sometimes the association attorney will just give guidance from the background. Sometimes we as public adjusters will advance a claim to a certain stage where then we need an attorney to take it across the finish line. That's a specialized field. So if you're in the need of an attorney with claims assistance, please make extra sure it's somebody that specializes in first-party property claims. A lot of great association attorneys out there. Most of the good ones that I know, they're good at the association stuff. They don't dabble in the first-party property stuff because they recognize it's two completely separate things. And then lastly, the public adjuster, right? We're the boots on the ground. I don't know if any of you have ever seen guys up in a three-piece suit climbing on the roofs. Typically that doesn't happen, right? The attorneys don't go up, climb on the roofs, inspect the windows and doors, you know, run thermal cameras. We do that stuff. We do that stuff for you and for them, should they be necessary. And so naturally, you're going to go through the claims process. You're going to get a recovery, ideally, because you're with Ask an Adjuster, right? We're going to hit it out of the park. And then you're going to restore your community, right? And then anywhere within that, you're going to have all sorts of delicate dancing and balancing acts of fixing things along the way, mitigating damages, but not damaging the claim process and so forth. So it's a lot of navigation throughout that process. This is more just about contractors, hiring contractors. You know, one thing that I always recommend, go to Google. Google is the smartest guy that we know of, and he or she happens to have a lot of info, right? So you can Google the contractors. DBPR regulates them. References is a good idea as well. Okay, go ahead and keep advancing. So in our business, we've had some issues at the legislative level with contractors wanting to act as licensed public adjusters. The problem is we, as a public adjuster, cannot turn around and fix your property. We're not allowed to by law. So I can't come out, get you a check and then say, now I'm going to change hats. I'm going to put your roof on. I'm going to do your dry out. I'm going to handle your mold remediate. Can't do any of that. It's one or the other. Should never be both, right? And so the contractors have been going around And they've been telling people, hey, we'll handle your claim, we'll get you the money, and then we'll do all the work for you. And that's been a big problem. So here's a round of laws that came out in 2021. And I want to mention something, right? So fast forward 2 years. So in the last 24 months in the state of Florida, we've had 5 sets of legislation come out. 5 sets affecting insurance and adjusting and claims. 5 rounds of laws, 24 months. That is historically unheard of, right? So this was the beginning stages of it back in 2021. Since that time, we've had a lot of significant changes as well. Just last December, your time to file, our time to file, I'm a Floridian too, was cut in half. So now we're down to 1 year and 18 months to supplement. They also took away a one-way attorney fee statute, which had been around in place for like 120 years. Now, one thing I want to mention there, sharp attorneys can still get fees. So if you have the right guys, they know the path to travel to recover the fees from the insurance company. But the days of, I got $1 more and now you owe me $1 million in fees, that day's gone. That day's gone. That statute's been removed as of last December. And now we just walked through another legislative session. We've got another set of laws taking effect in 3 days. So July 1, we'll have some new changes as well, but I'll save those for another day. We'll keep rolling. So should you be getting a second opinion? So a lot of times the association is looking to who to handle the entire claim for them. Who are they looking to? The CAM. Yeah, the CAM, of course, the CAM, right? I mean, he or she already has 3 full-time jobs. Let's give him another one, right? And so this slide is really just a visual to understand that a majority of these boards, they're not even aware of how outmanned and outgunned they are. And so naturally, when you start looking at it, Hurricane Ian came through. As you can imagine, we have dozens and dozens of communities that we've helped and are still helping. And so the carriers are doing a few things, right? They're sending out adjusters, they're sending out building consultants, they're sending out engineers, and then typically they've got an attorney sitting in the background on the backside, right? Directing all of it. And then you look at the associations team, and what do we got? The board and the CAM, right? And the poor CAM is already slap busy, multiple communities, problems at all of them, right? Trying to just do the daily. And so nobody is really quarterbacking and running the claim per se, right? So this was just something that I wanted to mention. The answer is absolutely yes. Should always get a second opinion. I can't tell you how many times I've come behind the insurance company's team, just like in Kissimmee, where they were at 50 grand and we delivered $4.5 million, right? That was a tremendous assessment we saved from that community. They got all new roofs, all new windows and doors. By the way, trick question for you. In a condo association specifically, governed under statute 718, who is covering the windows and doors during an insurable event? Right? And I'm going to give you the answer since I'm looking into a camera and we're not all together in a room. But yes, it is the association. And I can't tell you how many times I've met CAMs and boards that would tell me, right? So the hurricane came through, 30 unit owners called up, the windows and doors were leaking, and they told them, hey, windows and doors are on you. That's your issue. We don't take care of that. And they were dead wrong. Dead wrong. So under 718, if you're a condo association during an insurable event, you guys are covering that whole envelope. Roofs, windows and doors. You have to have that ability to protect the buildings. That's why they don't allow the unit owner to manage that. During the normal course of business, it's the unit owner. They maintain their windows and doors. They decide whether or not to pay to change them out and get your approval. Insurable event is the key word. All right. So state of Florida did a study about a little over a decade ago, the Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability. Try saying that one 3 times fast, right? We just say OPAGA. So the OPAGA report did a study. What they found is here in Florida, when you have your own public adjuster, ideally it would be ask an adjuster, but you have your own public adjuster, on average, you're gonna get 747% more money. That's a pretty staggering statistic. That is coming from the government's study, not ours, but I can tell you that after 65,000 claims, that stat is spot on. We average 700 to 800% more money for people that tried it on their own first. So it's a staggering statistic. And by the way, it's always free for us to come out. You never pay us to come take a look, to review your policy, to give you some advice. It doesn't automatically mean everything's a claim. But if you never bring us out to look at anything, you'll pay out of pocket for everything. It's just that simple. All right, so the role of a public adjuster. Basically, we go out, we inspect the property, we document the issues, we find the cause of loss, we advise you on how to shut down that source, mitigate the damages, then we build a claim package, right? At the end of the day, we don't need anything from the insurance company. When you have one of our adjusters, ask an adjuster, we're gonna actually do all of the work for them. And all they have to do is simply write the check. We're gonna give them everything they need to cut the check. Now, naturally, they may wanna pay a little less than what we're suggesting is owed. And so they may wanna come out, right? Anybody that's coming out, we're gonna meet them out there. If they request anything, it's gonna go through us, we're gonna provide it. So it's important to understand that when you hire a public adjuster, they should be handling that whole process for you, but you still maintain control. That's a key element. I tell our clients all the time, listen, I'm the quarterback, but you own the team. So at the end of the day, the decision-making is with you, but you're looking for me to win and take you to the Super Bowl. All right. So how do you pick the best public adjuster? Well, naturally, we go up against firms all the time, especially for boards. Right, and there's a little secret to our process here, which I included at the end, but don't tell anybody else. So how do we pick the best, right? So in my mind, size, pretty important, right? A guy or two working off a coffee table may not be equipped to handle your 60 buildings, experience. How long have they been doing it? What have they been experiencing? Have they dealt with windows and doors? How many times have they delivered 7-figure checks to get the windows and doors replaced in a community, right? That's a big deal. You don't want yours to be the first one that they're gonna go learn on, okay? Resources, another big one. Contractors, attorneys, engineers, a lot of good resources. That comes through experience. And then references, right? Naturally, you want good references. But lastly, this is the big one that we've been bringing to the table lately. We've actually been showing up and providing the boards with a sample. Here's a sample of our work product. Here's a sample of what you're gonna get, right? So our guys carry thermal imaging cameras, moisture detection equipment. When we go out and inspect a property, we're gonna find everything that needs to be addressed. We're gonna draft that scope and we're gonna get the carrier to deal with that all at one time. I don't want you coming back a year later, finding out you got other stuff you gotta fix. That's no good for anybody. So I can't quite read the top of that slide, but I think it says something like how to identify possible covered damages. It's funny, we have something over our screen. But anyway, here's an example of a marina down in the Keys. This was down in Marathon. This was after Hurricane Irma. And so they had a damage to their marina, very minimal from a visual perspective. So they filed a claim. The insurance company sent out an adjuster. Then they sent out an engineer. Then they sent out another engineer. Then they sent out a third engineer. And I said, man, what's going on here? They clearly didn't like what the first two guys had to say, right? So 3 engineers, an adjuster, and it came back just below the deductible, right? I don't know if any of you have ever filed a claim where it comes back just below the deductible, but it seems like it just magically happens that way pretty often. So we get involved. And one of the things I learned is they were using a lot of drones and all of this artificial intelligence to adjust the claim. And I said, look, guys, we're old school. Our guys are rope and harness certified. That's a big building, but you know what? We're going to go get on it. We're going to climb it. We're going to inspect it physically with our hands, with our eyes. And so that's exactly what we did. We inspected that building. We handled that loss. And about 12 months later, we took it from just below the deductible to delivering $700,000 cash. right? So we became a big fan for that board. It was actually a board that owns that marina down there at Baca Cut. But the point of that is, how to identify the covered damages? You got to inspect. You got to inspect, right? You have to physically take a look. You have to start from the top down. We take a top-down approach. Gravity always wins, right? So if your roof is leaking, if your windows and doors are leaking, if you've got an HVAC system leaking, a plumbing system leaking, we want to trace that down. We want to find all of that moisture, and we want to help you shut that source of moisture intrusion off, because you can't fix anything until you stop the source of the damage, right? Here, I want to mention something as well. Storm-created opening versus wind-driven rain. This is a great one. This is a great one. We used to dance a lot at mediations with these, right? You probably still hear this today. We had an LOR come in today from a very large office building, and the insurance company said everything was wind-driven rain. And so they have $800,000 of interior damage, but it's limited to $250,000 because it's wind-driven rain. Now, again, this is the insurance company's adjusters saying that. I will tell you that I have yet to find a policy that defines storm-created opening. So far, we've been successful getting 100% of these interiors paid, and here's how, right? If the policy doesn't define it, we go to an old buddy of mine, his name is Webster, right? We pull out Mr. Webster from back in the old, probably 1800s or so. Storm-created opening, right? Well, it's an opening created by a storm, either permanent or temporary, large enough to allow a molecule of water to enter the building, right? Okay, so then I get to start asking some questions to the insurance adjuster, right? Is it possible, Mr. or Mrs. Adjuster, that an opening was created during the storm and it closed up after when the storm left? The answer is absolutely not only possible, it's highly likely, right? And by the way, in the claims business, this is not beyond the shadow of a reasonable doubt, right? This is preponderance of evidence, 51% more likely, right? My building was hit by a hurricane. Is it likely it was damaged by a hurricane, or is this truly all just old stuff and I neglected it, right? 51% more likely, preponderance of evidence. So anyway, storm-created opening versus wind-driven rain. Define what that opening is supposed to look like, and then ask a few questions, and then naturally the checks arrive, right? That easy. So.
Hey,
here's
Kevin, we got a few questions. I want to interrupt you real quick. So we're getting a lot of questions on the windows. So if the condo docs say that the owners are responsible for the lanai sliding doors in the high rise, you saying that there's still a statute that it can be covered under the insurance for the general? Can you, we're getting a lot of questions on that. Can you clarify that?
Yes, I would love to speak into that, right? And again, you guys got to remember, so I'm not an attorney, but I've dealt with tons of association attorneys, tons of property attorneys. And so basically the way it works is the statute dictates the minimum that the bylaws are allowed to comply with, right? And so you can write your bylaws more aggressively, but you can't go below that. And so the key element there is insurable event. During the normal course of business, the unit owner, they can maintain all of that stuff. The moment that you in a condo under 718 have an insurable event, the community must have the ability to protect the envelope of the building. They cannot wait for you, Mr. Unit Owner, to decide to deal with your blown out sliding glass doors. Not allowed, right? So that's the intent behind it. That's always been my understanding. And so if your bylaws conflict, statute would govern. That's my understanding. So far to date, we've been 100% successful getting them paid. So if you're in a condo association under 718, you had damages to the windows and doors, you're an extremely viable candidate that the association's policy should be covering that tab.
So what about smaller claims for individual owners? I'm feeling that there's a lot of property managers on here that are listening to you that have a single family home that aren't in a condo, and they're asking for themselves. So there's a lot of questions about, do you do smaller claims for individual kind of single family homes?
Great question. Great question. So the answer is absolutely yes. So with roughly over 90 licensed public adjusters, as you can imagine, a decent portion of that is residential only, right? It takes them years of experience to graduate into the commercial and the condo world. We help unit owners We help single family homeowners. And again, it's always free for us to come out. So you own your own personal home, you've got a roof leak issue, we're happy to come look. You've got a plumbing issue, we're happy to come look. You've got no issues and you want a certificate of good condition on your own single family home, we're happy to come do it and it costs nothing. Yeah, we're happy to do that. We're in the relationship business and we know that by being a resource for you, it's only a matter of time whether you're going to need us or you'll know somebody that will. So it is free for us to do that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So here we just got some examples of areas of sensitivity, things to look for. So on the left, this is a flat roofing system, right? And the issue with flat roofing systems is they don't always show the visible evidence of wind damage. And so here you'll see perimeter metal that is slightly bent up, right? And so most engineers for the insurance companies specifically will say, hey, if the winds were going to damage this roof, we would see it at the perimeters first. So that's an area that we pay attention to, but I don't always allow that to be the gospel. Sometimes I've had flat roofing systems damaged by windstorms. The perimeter metal was so well fastened, it was not affected, but the roofing system itself had failed. And I'm going to explain how that happens. Just like with what flies a plane, when you pass wind over the wing of the plane, as it accelerates, it pulls up on the wing. It's called uplift, right? Low pressure uplift. Same thing with a storm. When a storm comes through and it's blowing across the top of your flat roof, the faster that wind goes, the stronger the uplift pressure, the stronger the uplift pull. And we've seen roofing systems that literally detached from the deck and set back down, right? And so the roof is still there. It looks fine. However, now it's leaking. We got all kinds of problems. We can't figure it out. And of course, the insurance company says, oh, that's wear and tear. That's lack of maintenance. We get involved. We understand the science and the testing that can be done, and we get those things paid. So I wanted to mention that. And then the middle slide here, we've got a 2x4 sticking through the middle of a palm tree, right? So if you come to your community and you guys had a storm last night and you see a tree with a board sticking through the middle of it, I would say you had high winds. We need to get out there. We need to inspect your roofs. We need to inspect your windows and doors. Just make sure you guys are in good shape. I will tell you one more little tip here. So we work with a lot of the trade shows, a lot of condo HOA shows. I teach a lot of CE at those shows, and I'll have boards that'll come by and I'll say, hey, how did you guys do after Hurricane Ian? How was the community? And they'll say, oh, no, we did great. We didn't have any issues. We just had about 30 trees folded over. And I'll say, okay. Well, I would suggest you have somebody come out and inspect those buildings. Because if you have trees folded over at your community, that's significant wind. And not all roof damage is obvious, right? So people assume that, hey, if half my roof didn't blow off, I must not have damage. But they just don't realize that your roofing systems, your windows and doors, they can be damaged and not be catastrophic, and you may not notice it, right? So very important. If you have a storm come through, it's free for us to come out. Worst case scenario, we're going to issue a certificate of good condition so we can at least say that, hey, as of today, we were in great shape. Go to the next one, please. All right, so here's a little slide that I really like a lot of the cams to take away. We used to actually mail these out laminated, and if any of you want one, we'd be happy to do that. But I just want to retrain the brain, right? So cams and boards, I want to teach them not to immediately gravitate to out-of-pocket costs and assessments every time they're fixing something at the community. So basically all this does is it just walks you through a thought process, right? We've got repairs in our communities. Okay, what are we talking about? We're talking about roofs, maybe balconies, maybe a plumbing system, maybe HVAC, right? So this walks you through, okay, what's the source of the damage? What's the extent of it? Is it major? Is it minor? Are we going to repair it? If we're repairing it, are we making permanent repairs? Or are we making temporary repairs, right? Are we going to replace it? Obviously, replacement is permanent. Now, the key element, right? Let's talk turkey. Who's paying for this thing, right? Is the insurance company on the hook to pay for the new roofs? Are they on the hook to access the plumbing system and bring it up to today's code? Is it a construction defect, right? Did we have work done recently? Is it a newer community? And then lastly, are we out of pocket, right? And I'm not saying that everything you fix is automatically a claim, but sometimes it is. And if you don't walk through this, you'll pay for everything out of pocket, assessments, and you'll always be out of pocket, and your rates will continue to go up, and you'll never get anything out of it, right? And so lastly, if you are out of pocket, who's responsible? The owner, the association, sometimes it's a combo of the two. But if any of you CAMs would like this, like I said, we laminate it, we mail them out, you stick it in your office. It's just a good reminder that, hey, not everything we fix should always automatically be out of pocket. We should walk through this drill a little bit. Okay, so steps to take if in fact we do have an insurance claim. And again, I can't read that top slide, but whatever it says. So discovering, documenting the damages. Here's an example of one of our guys carrying a thermal imaging camera, right? So it's not the moisture that you can see that's the problem. It's the stuff that you can't see. It's the moisture that's inside the walls, behind the cabinets, under the floors, right? And so we carry thermal imaging, we carry moisture detection equipment. But basically, there's a series of questions we're going to ask when we come out. How did you discover it? How have you documented it? Obviously, that would be us. What evidence shows the cause? Mitigation is another key one. What steps did you take to mitigate the damages? That one is a subjective term, but you just got to do something. I can't ever have a client say, oh, I didn't do anything, I just let it get worse. That would be a bad situation. Go ahead, Christina, thank you. So somebody's got to be the quarterback. And I don't know if you guys know who this guy is, but he happens to be a fellow Gator of mine, fellow teammate, friend of mine, right? So Mr. Tim Tebow, he's not a public adjuster though, but I am, right? So, but somebody has to be the quarterback. Somebody has to be responsible to put this claim package together, navigate through the process, and get us to a stage of finality where you guys get a nice large recovery. So you don't have to issue a bunch of special assessments. We'd love for it to be us, but it needs to be somebody. And so what is the role of the manager, the community association manager on the program, right? And so naturally what we have found is most boards want the CAM to do everything, right? Hey, we had a hurricane hit. I want you to handle it. Go get us the money, pick the contractor, get it all fixed, call me when it's done, right? And unfortunately, that's just not realistic. So what we have found is we try to take as much of that work as possible off of the plate of the CAM. The big thing we need is just access, just allowing us to come in and out of the community, climb on the roofs, inspect the windows and doors, in and out of the units, you know, things like that. We handle the rest. And so what types of damage might you have filed a claim for? Again, I can't see that top slide, but I can just walk you through some of these stories, right? So on the left-hand side, got all kinds of things, right? The best way to remember it is if you guys are about to spend money at your community fixing something, we should take a look. Doesn't automatically mean it's a claim, but if we never look, you'll never get any money back, right? So down here on the bottom right, I'm going to give you guys an example of a situation where a board tried to wing it, tried to handle it on their own, and they made some errors, right? So anybody ever dealt with squirrels in the attic? And I imagine out of 136 people, there's got to be at least one of you that has heard of that, right? Especially living in Florida. But so association had some squirrels in the attic chewing up the wiring and all kinds of problems. And they called the insurance agent, and the agent opens a claim and he says, yeah, there's no coverage, no coverage for squirrels. Squirrels are excluded. Your claim is denied. Have a nice life. Click. So then they meet us and tell me the story. And I said, nah, man, let me come out and take a look, right? Doesn't hurt, right? You've already got 0, so can't hurt. We come out, we take a look. I start walking around and I noticed that the soffit had been pulled away a little bit, right? The soffit was pulled away. I said, what's going on there? What happened? Oh yeah, we had a bad storm that come through, you know, messed up some of our trees, a little bit of our soffits. I didn't think much of it. And I said, huh, okay. Well, that's exactly what it was. They made the mistake. They filed a claim for squirrels. They should have filed a claim for what? Wind. Yes, wind. They had a windstorm, damaged the buildings, opened the soffits, squirrels come in, all of it's covered. So we got the whole thing reversed, got it all paid. It was a phenomenal success. Let me go ahead and move on to the next one. Here's some examples of window issues. We can actually keep rolling with that because we got quite a big presentation here. So we look for various things with windows and doors. Actually, go back one more. There we go. So we look for several things, and I'll just kind of rattle off real quick, right? So moisture intrusion, windows and doors, right? So I'm gonna ask you guys a question. Are windows and doors supposed to leak? No, the answer is no. The windows and doors are actually a structural element of your building, and they are not supposed to leak, right? So if you have moisture intrusion, that's a problem. What's even worse is once they start leaking, they deteriorate. And again, these are structural elements. So if you have windows that are leaking, especially if you're in a wood frame structure, it's only a matter of time before you end up having a lot of major work that has to be done. Temporarily bracing walls, pulling out, all sorts of exterior cladding. I mean, it can get seriously expensive. So having things checked out is a good idea, good business. The other thing we look at the gaskets, specifically the gaskets that hold the glazing away from the frame, right? And so what we've learned is when they are ingested, it's very difficult for the insurance company's engineers to explain to me how that happens absent of pressure differentials, right? And I love quizzing these guys when I'm out there in the field, and usually by the time we hit that question, they just stop answering my questions and they say, I'm not allowed to talk to you. And then I just laugh and say, all right, no worries, just put your report together, sure. We'll see you again soon. So, and then lastly, frames that are bowed, concave, bent. So you'll see separation where the frame attaches to the interior, the exterior. Sometimes I've had unit owners tell me, now I can hear the outside, right? So I'll close my doors, I'll lock them, and I can hear outside noise. I didn't used to hear that. Or my door doesn't close, it doesn't latch all the way, right? Like I lock it, but there's play. When unit owners mention things have changed post-storm, don't ignore that. It's worth looking into. Do not ignore that. All right. We keep rolling. Here's some examples of some roofing, hail damage specifically. A lot of times for hail, we're not just looking at the roofing system, especially when it's a tile roofing system. Concrete tile is obviously not damaged by hail very easily. We're looking more so at the collateral areas, right? The soft metals, things like that. Can we keep moving there?
Hey, Kevin, I got a few questions on the roofs. They're asking for your opinion, and I guess this is your own individual opinion. Solar panels. I would imagine that solar panels being attached to roofs, do you have to fight with it? First of all, what's your opinion on that? Is it a good idea or a bad idea? And then number two, do insurance companies find the solar panels at fault, so they try to dodge the claim? So it's a two-part question.
Great questions, right? So I have heard recently that carriers are not insuring solar panels on roofs. Now, I don't know if that means the panels themselves specifically, or if that means, hey, you put solar on, now I don't want you as an insured. I don't know the answer to that. But I will say that I haven't seen a big challenge with carriers blaming the solar for the damages. But then again, we've been doing this a long time, so we're going to be seeking evidence to support a windstorm versus solar panels sitting up there. But anytime that you're putting a bunch of penetrations in your roof, it's not ideal. But, solar in terms of offsetting the electric bill, that's kind of one of those things where it seems like good business. I'm a finance guy. I ran the numbers. It was like a 7% return. And by the time the panels were outdated, I would then have my money back just so I could buy more panels, right? So for me, it didn't work. But I would say putting panels on your roof, check with your agent first to make sure it's not going to mess you up in terms of getting coverage for your roof itself. If all they're saying is, hey, we're not going to cover the panels, I don't know that that's too terrible of a situation, but you just have to be prepared for that. Hopefully that answered the question.
What about cell phone towers? There's a huge trend with these cell phone towers going to condos and saying, hey, let us attach your cell phone or towers to your condo. You guys can earn money, so on and so forth. When that tower comes off and it's damaged, how does that work? And is that another thing that they got to check with their insurance agent before they start strapping these things to their parapet walls?
That would be a great idea. And I would say that you could even maybe go one step further and probably negotiate some sort of a hold harmless from the tower people, right? So if any damage occurs, if your insurance company says, oh, that's from the tower, if you could lean on the tower people to then pay that. But yes, checking with the agent first is going to be a key element, because right now with insurance being so expensive and so challenging, you don't want to do something that makes it even more difficult to get insurance.
Thank you.
Yep. And we're going to go ahead and buzz through that. Some examples of like fire damage and so forth. Mold remediation, thermal imaging cameras, water damage. Really the big thing is, you guys, when you get calls from unit owners and they're saying, hey, I smell mold, or hey, I think I've got water damage or whatever, it's just important to take that serious. It's important to have somebody go out. We can go out for free. So if, you guys don't want to spend money sending someone out, you don't want to spend money sending out a mold assessor, we can at least go out and do the free inspection and bring back the info and let you know what we find. And then from there, you can game plan on how to approach it. Sometimes it's just really, they want peace of mind to know that there's nothing wrong. And then other times we go out and we do find issues and we say, hey, you got a plumbing system that's failed. You've got, pipes behind the wall that need to be accessed. And so we want to help you address that, which, by the way, that brings me to something I wanted to touch on, plumbing systems, right? So you have a plumbing failure in the community, you call the agent says, hey guys, plumbing's not covered, sorry, have a nice life. Well, they didn't actually tell you the full story, right? So the plumbing system itself is not covered for damage. However, the access, the water damage, and all the mold, all of that is covered, right? And so when you talk to a plumber, 95% of the cost of plumbing on an existing structure is access. Breaking into the floor, pulling out the cabinets, opening the shower wall, resetting the tub, all these things to get to those pipes. And so we've seen where communities have had old cast iron drain lines or poly pipe and things like that. And the policy owes them to access that plumbing system and then bring it up to today's code. And that's a huge upgrade, because what a lot of people don't realize is most of our clients, after they have a claim, their rates actually go down. And I'm going to explain why. So most of these policies have benefits to bring things up to today's code, right? So you're in a community, your roofs are 15 years old. You had some damage from one of these hurricanes. You thought it was below your deductible. We come out and we say, no, they owe you $5 million to put all new roofs on, right? And not only are we going to put all new roofs on, we're going to bring them up to today's code, right? At the end of that claim and those new roofs, guess what happens to your premium? It goes way down. You now have brand new roofs at today's code, and you used to have 15-year-old roofs, right? And so I got one more question for you. Do you think the insurance companies know that our entire state was covered by 2 hurricanes last year? Yes, they do. They're not stupid. They got lots of money. They know. And so if you are of the opinion that you didn't have any damage or it was below your deductible, if you do not get something in your file, like a certificate of good condition, like what we offer, the likelihood of you being denied later and an old storm being blamed is extremely high, right? Extremely high. So I just want everybody to be aware of that. Just because we come out, it doesn't mean you have to file a claim, but you should at least have somebody come out and certify that you didn't have any damage, so you could check those storms off for sure on a go-forward basis. All right, go ahead. So what types of claims have you guys filed for? What types of damages are you dealing with? I could touch on that, right? Anybody ever had a car hit the wall out front? Just about every one of you. Lightning strike, right? I've seen obviously wind claims, hail claims, roofs, windows and doors, plumbing issues, HVAC system. Here's a great one, right? So do you have any snowbirds in your community? Remember, I'm born and raised in St. Pete. And so, once the holidays come, all of a sudden there's a bunch of traffic up and down the beach. And then after Easter, it all dies down, funny enough. So those are the snowbirds, right? So we have times where snowbird comes down. Let's see, if you guys are on the east, they're coming down from northeast. If you're on the west coast of Florida, they're coming down out of the Midwest. So I'm going to say you're in a community in Tampa, and you have somebody coming down from Illinois. You got a snowbird, and they show up in November, and they walk in and the AC is off and what is growing all throughout their unit? Yes, possible mold, possible microbial growth, right? So they call the insurance agent and they say, hey, we just got to our condo, there's mold everywhere, and we need to file a claim. And he says, well, mold's not covered. Have a nice life. You're denied, right? And then they get a hold of us, and then we come out and we spend a few extra minutes with them, you know, because by this point they're very upset, frustrated, probably just need a hug. And so I started asking some questions. Well, what's going on? Did you turn the AC off? No, I didn't turn the AC off. We live in Florida. You got to keep your AC on, right? So, okay, good. So let's get the HVAC guy out here. HVAC guy comes. We got a blown capacitor. AC system failed. High moisture content ensued, right? So the humidity spiked, which is another word for high moisture content, AKA water damage. So then we call the insurance company, hey, got an HVAC failure, resulted in water damage, secondary damage, got microbial growth, pay the claim, $50,000, go fix your unit, have a nice life, right? So again, a lot of what we teach is just people don't know what they don't know. And so at the end of the day, everybody should have an adjuster that works for them. We would love for it to be us, but you should always have somebody coming out, reviewing the policy, inspecting the property, and just giving you some advice. Doesn't automatically mean it's a claim, but quite often we're delivering huge checks to people that never knew they were owed anything. So I think
Kevin, I got a question. Somebody about that certificate. So if someone had a flood in the community, they're working with an adjuster. Are you saying that they need to request a certificate to protect the association?
No. So what I'm saying is, you believe you have no damages at your community as of today. That's actually a good thing. The problem is we had 2 huge hurricanes come through last summer. So if you have nothing in your file to certify that as of today, you're in good condition, if we get a future storm, it's highly likely the carrier's engineers are going to blame those old outdated storms and you'll get denied for pre-existing conditions.
Right.
And you'll have nothing to overcome that.
So basically get a clean bill of health to make sure that there was nothing previous. And then obviously it's after the storm. Okay,
Yeah.
Makes total sense. Yes, thank you.
Anything new must be new, right? So we're licensed and appointed through the state. We come out to the property, we certify that it looked good to us. Something new happens a week later, we know it's new. We were just there. Something happens a year later, we know it's new. We were there a year ago. We typically do those annually. They're free. We normally do them at the start of hurricane season, but we also review your policies too. So we can even set them up and just do them at renewals. Policy renews, we review it, we come out, we do the baseline, certify the community, hope that nothing happens, but sometimes things do. It's nice that we have a file to show that, hey, we were there and this wasn't, right? No pre-existing conditions. Here we talk about how long do you have to file a claim? It just got cut in half. So in December, they had a special session. They passed a handful of laws. That was one of the 5 sets in 24 months. If you look at some of what was passed, you'll see very clearly that insurance companies are extremely favored right now at the legislature. So these were all cut in half. So now you have 1 year to file a claim. You have 18 months to supplement it. You better know the difference between reopen and supplement, because you can be barred if you try to reopen one outside of 12 months. So go to the next one, please, Christina. And I think we're almost out of time, but I'm just going to keep rolling until you guys kick me out of here. You know what I mean? Can't even get a hold of me physically because we're on a camera. Let's see. How do I know what's covered my association? We have bylaws, statutes, insurance agent, property manager, common misconceptions, windows and doors. We touched on that. We talked about what if the bylaws conflict with the statutes, right? Every association attorney I've ever met has told me, hey, statute dictates the minimum. Bylaws are supposed to comply with the statute, right? Now, if you guys have an association attorney that tells you otherwise, I wouldn't mind speaking with them. I would just love to be better educated. Can my CAM be paid from the claim, right? I'm sure some of you CAMs do feel like this sometimes. And the answer is yes. If you set things up properly, there's a lot of benefits in these policies, right? Remember, I talked about that 110-page policy. In the beginning, it's covered. In the end, it's not. In the middle, it might be. There's a lot of great stuff in there. You got to know how to access it. You got to know how to pull those benefits out of there and turn them into cash. So you CAMs that are doing a ton of extra work on these claims, Yes, if you set things up properly, you can bill and be paid as part of the claim benefits for that extra work.
Kevin, I just want to interject. You have about 15 minutes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, good, good. That's more than I was thinking. Okay, so here we just have some more examples of window and door issues. This was actually this is a multi-million-dollar residence that was on the river. And the call came in, I was speaking with the wife, and she says, we can hear the outside noise through our windows and doors, and they don't close as tight as they used to. I lock it and now there's play, and but we have $175,000 deductible. And I said, well, listen, ma'am, no worries. I'm gonna come out, it's free. And it doesn't mean you have to file, right? If it's not gonna be above your deductible, I'll be the first guy to tell you, right? I don't like working for free. So we only get paid if and when we're successful delivering a check. In this scenario, we delivered 675 grand cash to them. Got them a new roof, got them new windows and doors on their multi-million-dollar house on the river. They weren't even gonna file. They thought it was below their deductible. So if you look far right, you can see where that gasket, okay, it's the black rubber piece, has actually been pulled in. It's been pulled in, ingested between the frame and the glazing, right? Because that gasket keeps that glazing from touching the metal frame. And so it's a critical element. How do you fix that? You can't fix that. That's a replacement of that window and door. Once you start touching enough of those openings, now you're talking about bringing things up to today's code. And there's multiple codes, right? So everybody thinks windborne debris region. Well, remember, I'm an adjuster for you. I want the greatest benefits for you. So I'm going to lean on wind codes, energy codes, turtle codes, right? If you're near the coastline, I'm going to give us every benefit possible to get you paid quickly and fairly so you guys can restore the community and move on. Will they raise my rates? Will they drop me? But my agent says plumbing isn't covered, right? So these are all things we've talked about. So the answer is no, they won't raise your rates and they won't drop you just because you had a claim, because you have statutory protections. There's actually laws in Florida that say, hey, you can't be penalized because you had a claim. However, as we've seen, everybody's rates are going up, right? And so the simple fact is, if you've been paying for insurance and you have an opportunity to receive a large benefit, right? I'm not going to tell you to go file a claim and get $1,000 check. That would be silly, right? But if you have a large benefit due, maybe they owe you 500 grand, maybe they owe you 5 million, right? At some point, there is a delta where, hey, that number, yes, I would file and I would want them to send me that check. Keeping in mind that our clients typically see their rates go down once everything's brought up to today's code, which is really an awesome thing. It's ironic to me that people are scared to file, but then after we deliver the check, their rate goes down. Okay, let's keep going. 3 things on every claim. So this is part of what I teach our crew, our team, right? Over 90 licensed adjusters, got to have this on every single file. Cause of loss, date of loss, mitigation, right? Cause of loss is a critical element. If you don't know the source of the damage, we have to find it. We have to button that up. I do not like to let the insurance company send their engineers to then dictate what they think is the cause of loss. I've never seen one picked that was covered, okay? Date of loss. When did it occur, or when did you discover it? Now that's a bit of a subjective issue, right? Because it's 2 separate dates, right? And sometimes I'm looking at a windstorm back here under a better policy than the date you discovered it here, right? And both apply. So me being an adjuster for you, I want to adjust this claim to the greatest benefit of you, my client. I'm going to choose the date of loss to give you the best benefit legally. And then mitigation. What efforts were made to prevent further damage, right? And you guys remember the one answer I could never have is, I didn't do anything. I just let it keep getting worse, right? I don't ever want to hear that. Got to do something. I took a towel, cleaned up the water, called a plumber, called a roofer. I called Kevin and his team. Here they are, right? Tips to expedite the claim. POL, claim package timeline, right? So proof of loss. Proof of loss is an official document as part of the claims process. It's a double-edged sword, right? We utilize it as a benefit to our clients. We know that once we've constructed that claim package, right? I've got evidence of what caused it. I've got evidence of everything that's damaged. I've got a scope of work drafted. I've got the estimate built out. I know how much they owe. I've got thermal images, photographs, scientific evidence, manufacturer specs, anything I need for the carrier to just say, here's your check, right? And then the proof of loss puts them on tighter timelines, right? So are there little tips and tricks to the trade, right? There's tools and things that we can do on our side to speed the process up. At the end of the day, we just want to get you paid quickly and fairly, and then move on to the next one. Ordinance and law coverage, we talked about this. And so it's going to be called a couple of different things. Ordinance and law would be the benefits that bring things up to today's code. There's also in the commercial policy, sometimes they use the term increased cost of construction, right? So those are usually going to be the two synonymous terms that are going to be used in the policy. But a lot of policies are going to have these benefits, and they're good benefits. If you have a windstorm or a hailstorm, and now I'm looking to get windows and doors paid for your entire community and upgraded to today's codes, this benefit is going to be a key element in that policy. If this is not in there, then I've got to dance a little different way to do the best I can for you. Do I have to get 3 bids? No, never seen that even one time in any policy. What's in a mold package, right? And I know that we're wrapping up, Peggy, we got about 5 minutes, but I'm almost done. We're getting down to the tail end here. So mold package, right? Nobody's allowed, I guess, scientifically to walk in, look at something and say, oh, that's mold. We're not allowed to do that, right? So it has to be sent away. But here's the process, and there's a key element I want everybody to take away. The most important part of a mold package, I'll tell you at the end. So you have some water damage, you have a roof leak, plumbing issue, HVAC, something like that, window leak. And so you look to see what might be possibly mold. First step is a mold assessor comes out and they test. They take test samples from inside and they take a test sample from outside to have a comparison. There's mold everywhere, by the way. But what we're looking for is we're looking for a spike, an elevated mold level inside versus outside. That would show that there's a problem. So they take an assessment, they take a bunch of samples, they mail them off to a lab, and then the lab sends the results. You either have mold or you don't. It's scientific, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Then the assessor writes a protocol. Okay, if I have mold, what do I got to do to get rid of it? Once that protocol is done, it then goes to a separate unaffiliated person, a mold remediator. That is the people that actually remove the mold, not the people that test to see if you have it. Can everybody understand the conflict? If I can come in and test it, yes, you have it, and then I can tear it all out and fix it for you. Yes, there would be a conflict. I would want to call everything mold and tear everything out just to be paid, and that wouldn't be a good idea. So mold assessor first, then mold remediator comes in, removes all the mold, and the most important part of the entire process, at the very end, you get a clearance test. This is your clean bill of health. Do not give them that final payment until you have your clearance test. I can't tell you how many times I've seen remediators either A, not get clearance, or B, fail it over and over and over, right? And so if you ever have to disclose, yes, I had mold, the very next thing you say is, here's my clearance test. Here's my clean bill of health. Everything is good. If you don't have that, that's a problem, right? All right, I think we're almost done. What if I don't know the cause of loss? We gotta find it. We gotta button it up. We would be happy to inspect anything you guys are fixing. It doesn't automatically have to be a thing. Yes, sir. Rudy, do you have a question?
We do. We got a bunch here. How does the association get paid? So let's say you got $4 million for roofs. Does the insurance company cut that check? Is it go into an account that's an escrow account? Do they pay the contractor directly? So how does the association get paid? Do they usually get a cold hard check?
Yes, typically the association will receive a check, and then usually they can then disperse the funds as work's being performed. Sometimes as a courtesy, we'll map out almost like as a consultant, we'll map out construction process, draw schedules, we'll help them select contractors, things like that. Even though that's not typically a service we're paid for. When we have a relationship, we're in this business day in, day out. So we help them navigate that process
how do you guys get paid? So we know insurance adjusters are like salary and bonus, but how does a public adjuster get paid, and how does that kind of affect the overall payout to the association?
Great question. So by law, we're required to work on a contingency percentage. It's a range somewhere between 10 and 20%, depending on the claim and the complexity. Basically, when the check comes, the association deposits a check, cuts us a check for our percentage, and then moves forward from there with their funding.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can roll on from there. We should be getting close. There you go. So what great timing. So next steps, right? We'd love for all of you to contact us, schedule the free baseline inspection where we can issue a certificate of good condition. Can you go to the next slide? And then here's some QR codes if you guys want the presentation. That's on the left. You can just QR scan that. We'll email you the presentation on the right. I would love for everybody to save our contact info in your phone. You may not need us today, but if you save us in your phone, you can simply just search adjuster in your contacts and we're going to pop up. And remember, it's always free for us to come out to look at anything. It doesn't mean it has to be a claim, but we could at least give you some good advice. Thank you guys again very much. It was my pleasure. Thank you, Autumn, so much, and Peggy and Rudy. You guys have a great day.
Yes. Okay, great. Awesome information. I'm very, very overwhelmed. It's just amazing. Your experience that you can share with us today. So thank you so much. I want to thank my sponsors again today. I also want to mention we have a couple of webinars coming up in July. So tentatively, we've got July 12th, July 27th, I believe, again, or 29th with M2E, and Autumn's planning that. We also have 2 in August. One for sure, Rudy and I are going to do another webinar that's going to cover glitch law changes and so on, this new law having to do with the milestone inspection. So that's really exciting. So we have a lot of flyers you're going to be getting. I want to also say have a fun and very safe July 4th, and look forward to seeing you all on the next webinar.
I got one more question for Kevin. I got one more question. So I'm following the process and all the legislation very closely, and it looks like DeSantis is putting a lot of different legislation in place. Overall, the 10,000-foot view, do you think the recent legislation, do you think it's helping the condo owner and the homeowner? Or do you think it's more sided towards the developer or the contractor or the insurance company? What's your honest take on that?
So been doing this a long time, seen a lot of cycles. A lot of the legislation that has been coming out has been extremely pro insurance company, but they're doing that to try to lure new companies in, more companies in, to create a more competitive environment where the rates might go down. The one big challenge I see is the deck is stacked against us, right? So we're paying for insurance. We go to file a claim. It's going to be very difficult to get anything out of them without having people help do that. But the trade-off is carriers should start flooding in saying, wow, we can collect premiums and there's not a lot of guys that can make us do anything, right? Like we can just collect and not pay and nobody's going to do much about it. So I do see that coming, but I think the trade-off is it should help the rates come down within the next couple of years.
So it's almost like there's going to be casualties. There's going to be casualties that hopefully, you know, there's not a lot of insurance companies out there. Hopefully the market, because the legislation is so favorable, more insurance companies will come in because they think that they can make a dollar. And those people that aren't prepared, that aren't getting an adjuster, they're going to be kind of victims of whatever the policy is and whatever they just take what the insurance company gives them instead of getting representation from somebody like yourselves. Is that a good?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're starting to see it now. We're getting people calling us saying, hey, I'm having a hard time finding anybody that can help me. You know, attorneys are telling me they can't help me. Adjusters are telling me they don't know how to help me. And can you guys help me? You know, and of course, we want to help everybody as best we can, you know, so we're at least willing to come out and look and see what we can put together. But we're starting to already see it, and it's just the beginning stages.
Okay, so this was recorded. Peggy is going to share with everybody. So you will get emails from, I'm sure, all of the sponsors on this program, but Peggy's going to send out a master list that's going to have everyone's contact information on it. Kevin is also going to, please, Kevin, send to Peggy those codes. People are asking for those codes again. So you'll get an email from Peggy. It'll have a list of all the sponsors. It will have a list of those codes, so you can contact Kevin and his team. This was also recorded, so Peggy will have the link of that recording. And did I miss anything, Peggy?
I don't think so. Great job.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It was very informative. Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Nice holiday, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.